Hello, welcome to the collaborative approach. I'm Danielle and I have Tammy here next to me. And today we're going to be discussing about growing minds and gentle guidance, the power of appropriate expectations.
Yeah, this one's a really important one, I think, and it's super exciting. It and like what we're going to do is unpack what that title means. And I think a lot of educators come in and they don't have the tools or like the education around how to educate children, and it's a learnt skill and practice. So we often see when your trainees come in and you watch their journey and how it starts to evolve. What's so important for those trainees is to have a really good role model, because I think what often happens in childcare is if you have a trainee from the start that gets a role model that also hasn't been trained, then their learning is so delayed in how to interact with children to make sure they're meeting their, developmental appropriate expectations, and how they speak to the children and what activities they're putting out, and then right down to the mat time of making sure that you're not making a mat time that's developmentally just way too long for some children, or it's not dense enough. Like there's so much to it, and I think the biggest thing is having our young learners with some really good role models, because the best way to learn is in practice.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree because I think when we talk about developmentally appropriate expectations and interactions in the childcare setting, especially from educators to children, I would say like we should be focusing on how educators thoughtfully plan their responses, the environments, the routines, and the guidance to align with each child's age and individual needs and learning style. And that's something that like our trainees are looking at. So they just think it's common practice. That's how it is. So once people, educators are aware of all those different needs, the different developments and the individual needs, the expectations and interactions, they'll be about the how and the why we do things in those ways to support like the whole child, socially, emotionally, physically, and cognitively, right?
Mhm. And I think like you'll see the first thing that goes is when a child isn't engaged, because either it's too easy, too hard, is that they'll present with a behavior.
Yeah.
And often that behavior is this is not what I want to be doing. It's not right for me. I don't want to listen to you. And I often see educators trying to do these elaborate mat times with these elaborate ideas when what they really just need to come back to keeping it simple and fun, because children are that like, especially that 2 to 3 year old age. I often find a lot of educators start putting some really high expectations on the 3 year olds, and the expectation is for them to sit for a long time and to learn and to not walk away from the mat, and like what an educator needs to notice is if the children aren't engaged, that's a reflection on them. Like, what is it that they need to change?
Yeah.
So, that's like that importance again of critical reflection and going, hang on a moment, what is it that I'm doing that they're not engaging in? And I think rhyme, rhythm, and repetition gets really lost now. So knowing really good songs and like using puppets. Like I hadn't seen puppets used for a really long time, and I've got this educator that loves using puppets, and she's in that 2 to 3 year old age, and it is like game changer. Like,
Yeah.
if it's one thing I can recommend in any age group is to use puppets, use like different tones of voice, be loud, be
I was going to
soft,
say that.
be yeah. And because like I think like we grew up with lots of like the music and the lots of the little rhymes that like they still use today, and like things like that. But that's really missing at the moment. I think that's an area that we could really highlight for new educators coming through, is the power of music and rhythm and getting children moving and having fun.
And like listening to the instructions, right? And following that, because that's how you're teaching them impulse control, and how do you teach them to get engaged and to follow instructions through songs and through games when you're doing a mat time, and having those, not having the unrealistic expectations where you expect children to just sit still and listen quietly while you talk. It's not a lecture. It's supposed to be a mat time, and it's engaged, it's interactive.
And it's
And
connection. It's all about connection.
it is. And I feel like I read another day about this research where the teacher was like reading books, and then there were the children at the back sitting and wiggling their bodies and moving and stuff. And there were children in front of her, they were like just watching her without blinking, you know. And then, you know, in our heads as teachers, usually we think that those children that are in front of us, they're the ones that know it all because they paid attention, they were quietly the whole time. But when she asked questions, the children at the back were able to answer those questions better than the ones in the front. So
Mhm.
the full attention doesn't mean that they are there with you too. You know,
Mhm.
they could be just looking at you, but thinking about something completely different. And maybe that child that needs to move, they need to have their body movement because
Yeah,
they
and often it's
need,
a
or maybe they just
reflection.
need to, you know.
Yeah.
It can,
Often it's a reflection on the actual educator too.
yeah.
Like that the reflection is that they need the children to conform,
Yeah.
and they need the children to be quiet, and like letting go of all of that expectations and high expectations that you have, of having a quiet classroom. Like if you want to work in childcare, get used to the noise, get used to the background chatter, because a noisy classroom is a busy, well engaged classroom.
Yeah.
Often it's seen like, oh, like that you, whether you have control or not control. There's a major difference walking into a busy, noisy classroom that's engaged, and a classroom that doesn't have enough happening, that's disengaged and noisy. So like it's really getting to know your children and their needs and what they are interested in. And in those early years where that is tricky, that's where you need your parent input and feedback. Like, what is it that they really love? And like, sometimes it will be trains, or it will be dinosaurs, or like, and just really honing in on that for that group of children.
I feel like,
We had a couple of years ago, we had like a lot of training around this in our 2 to 3 year old room. They were really struggling with wanting everyone to sit on the mat and do the group time. And, there's 3 educators in the room. So we discussed like, well, if there's some children that stand up and walk away, like move with them.
yeah.
So have an educator continue that group time, move with them. But like as it evolved, what they did was they ended up doing a music and movement outside, getting that really big energy out, that those children needed, that was really fun and engaging and like really big movement. And then they came back and they reduced the amount of time on the mat, and started using the puppets and, being really animated.
Yeah.
So like lots of reflection for that group. And by the end of the year, it was just such a big difference in their meaningful times and their meaningful connections with children.
And I feel like that's right. Like you hit the nail right there. Like the time, the expectation of time. Like under 2 year olds, they shouldn't be sitting on a mat for longer than 5 minutes, to be honest. Like they can't, they wouldn't be able to sit still for that long. I don't think, like I've been talking to you and I've moved 100 times already. You know, it's like and children, they're just like too excited, they want to do things. So like you said, like puppets really help. Or even having, I remember that I would have stories like monkeys, and I would give them each a monkey, and then give them a like a crocodile, and then talk about the monkeys and crocodile songs, and just giving them things to hold on to so they feel like they're being part of it. They're not just sitting and watching. It's a great way. I used to then get the kids like to do the songs like Five Little Monkeys jumping on the bed, for example, and then it'll be all jumping while the other ones are watching, and then they will all fell off and bumped his head, and they would pretend and come back, and then like simple things, but then they would be moving, and then they would be following instructions, and they'll be doing all these things, and then uh like getting them to tell stories. And then like we started like with the kindy year, the 4 year olds, you can get them start a story and the other one goes next, and what happened? So what did that person see? And then, where did they go? And get them involved in the story. And like you
Mm,
said, changing your tone of voice, doing the peer praise, like I usually see educators running a mat time and saying, like reading a story and say, Johnny, sit down. Mary, don't touch
mm,
your friend. Like, no, do the peer praise. Doing
mm,
this, like reading the book and look around and say, "Oh, we love the way Florence is sitting down right now. Look,
mhm.
such a beautiful body listening, and then go there again. I really love, like, do you have any, like, just get them engaged in that
Yeah,
way.
and if you've got that
Positive traits,
child
technology.
wiggling, yeah, if you've got that child wiggling, being like, "Oh, I see you've got a lot of energy. Would you like to help me act it out?"
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
noticing that, and it really comes down to that, the educators starting to be more aware of emotional intelligence
Yeah.
and more aware of their children's need. It was like when you were talking about the wiggly child, like, I've got my own son at home that I always think, like, he's just not listening to me, or you know, he's the type of child that needs to do two things at once to take it in.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to understand that. And once I did, I was like, yeah, it kind of changed the way that I sort of saw him, changed the lens that I, looked
Yeah.
through. And I think, like, even at school, I was thinking, how is he even taking any of this in? But it's like he needs to be busy to actually take in the information. And I was like, it reminded me of that when you're saying, like, the wiggly children, sometimes they need to move their body to actually concentrate,
Yeah.
um,
And you
and
just get them to
regulate.
sit down at the back. That's what I used to do. Sit them at the back so they're not distracting the one in front. Like you're gonna sit here, give them like be strategic on your thinking, like put them at the back with an educator near them. Give them I had like this tactile toys and stuff for them, sensory toys for them to play with as they were doing it. As they were listening to the story, because some of them need to do it, and like you said, they have to they had to be doing two things at the same time, so then they can actually concentrate, and that's okay. I feel like that's what it is to feel included and to meet their needs and have appropriate expectations. It's like, and if you see that you're looking around and you can see that there are more children distracted than children engaged, get them to move. Stand up. Okay, let's go. Move your arms. Move, go to the
Mhm.
side. Do something to get them involved. Um,
I think too,
like,
like, there's a way that you can build the enthusiasm. So,
yeah,
like, if a child's walking in the door, like they're getting dropped off, it's like, oh, I can't wait to show you what we're going to be learning about today.
yeah,
Like, oh, and I've got this very special friend that I'm going to be bringing out, and, like, they're like, oh, who is it? What is it? Blah blah blah, like that kind of thing, and then hiding that, like, special, say it's a puppet, and
yeah,
then, like, slowly bringing it out. Oh, they're a bit shy. Like, how can we help? Like, you just have all the kids all on you. Like, it's like, um, that's what I was thinking too. Like, I love watching educators when they walk in and they've got all this, like, judgment, right? So they're like, oh, I'm too embarrassed to do this, or I don't want to sing, and I love watching the journey of them going from, like, oh, I'm not doing that. Like, oh, like, I can't believe she's doing that. Like, to embracing, like, when you work with children, you can wholeheartedly be yourself.
yeah,
And I think, like, a lot of parents would notice this with their own children, right? So when they're in the car and they're singing and they're being silly and they're, like, really can just, have no judgment around. And when you let go of that inhibition and you just, like, be, like, there's no expectation to perform a certain way or do a certain thing. It's just like this amazing thing that happens to an educator when they get to that. They
yeah.
start to let go, and they start to, just trust that they're in a safe environment with these little people that just idolize you.
Yeah. And I feel like sometimes they feel like they're going to be judged if they let a group of children leave their mats because they're not
Yeah.
containing everyone in there. And I feel like it's not like it shouldn't be judged, because it just means that you do recognize and identify their developmental needs, and
Mm,
they need to move, and that's fine. Offer them an option. Say, like, look, if you don't want to be on a mat time, it's fine. Do you want to go and choose play on the mat on that table, or do you want to play in the book corner or something else? So give them an option where they can go,
mhm,
because probably they can't be outside because you know, there will be a teacher or something, but give them an option or to go like look at their body language and see if it can meet their needs. And as long as you are, like I said, you're not stopping your med time to just you know, engage with that child all the time to redirect it. I think if you need the, if you feel the need to redirect a child too many times during your med time, I mean that they're not ready for it, and that's fine. They don't want to do it. That's fine. They might join next time, and they might not
Reflection again.
for a few times until they see it. They're like, actually, you know what? It's quite fun. I think I'll give it a try again.
Yeah, and I think like for educators, it's really important to um like research and Instagram and Pinterest and all of that. Not saying like I definitely don't want to send the message that you want to have an Instagram or Pinterest worthy classroom. That's
Yeah,
not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying like there is so many great resources out there that you can be role modeled through. That if it's not happening in your service at the moment, you're trying to bring some like engaging activities and things like that. There's so much out there that you can actually access now and watch somebody else doing it and implement it for what works for your own children. But the best thing is to get to know your own children, like what they love and how you want to do it. And
yeah.
yeah.
I do have a Spotify playlist that's called Miss Danny Fun Met Time by me, and it's like it's got all these different songs in there that is really to like they are really easy to follow because it tells the children what they should be doing. There's like one song that is called, it's like it used to be my kindy favorite, which is the sit down stand up.
Oh yeah.
Did
That
you
was
know
the
that
song
one?
that I was thinking you would be talking about.
Yeah.
I
I
think like
loved it.
maybe we should do like a little like page up of
Yeah.
engaging songs like to
Yeah.
go with this. I think that that might be really beneficial to some people if we do a
Yeah.
bit of a list up of like age appropriate. So we might do like the 0 to 2 age, the 2 to 3, and
Yeah.
then the 3 to 5 age, and have a bit of a list of some songs, some activities, just some real basic things, or like maybe even some Instagram pages that you could follow.
Yeah.
um I think it would be really cool, like we to help some educators, particularly if that we've got some listeners out there that don't have access to good professional development. Like
Yeah.
utilize like the things that you can find, and the internet's like it's very overwhelming, but if we can narrow down a bit of a list for you,
Yeah.
um I think that would be a great
I think so.
tool for.
And like, and also don't think that it has to be a novelty every day. It has to be a different song.
Yeah.
Children love repetition. So like I had this playlist, which I have maybe like say 25 songs in there. And throughout the whole year, that's all the songs I would play. I would just change. Sometimes if we played like musical chairs, then I would play a little bit of more pop songs or something. But when we did Met Times, it was always the same thing. And they loved it. They loved knowing, like when I start singing in the beginning, they knew exactly what they need to do. So
Yeah.
when I start the song in the beginning of that, for example, that stand up, sit down, they all have to start sitting down. So then like as soon as the music started, they were like
Yeah.
all sitting down because they knew what to
But
do.
like I think too, like when you think about how excited you get when you're at a concert, you know the words, you're going to really
Yeah.
get into it. It's the same concept, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like children love being like, oh, I know this song and I know what I'm doing, and
Yeah. It's like
like
being
yeah,
control, right, for them. Yeah.
yeah. Again, the power of music in the early years. Like we could, like I actually can think of someone that we could interview on music and movement. It would be amazing. So maybe we need to bring her on, give a bit more background and a bit more education for those wanting and needing it.
Yeah, I think that'll be pretty cool. And I think
Mm.
that like definitely watch out our pages. We're going to be sharing some of more ideas as well. And we would love to see your ideas. What are the
Mhm.
songs that are like a big hit in your classroom? It doesn't matter which age group you work with. I think it would be pretty cool for us to know. Share with us. It'll be pretty fun to learn. We can create our own collaborative playlist from at
Yeah,
times.
that sounds awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for listening to us. And yeah, please leave your comments below so we can share with everyone else too.
Till next time. See ya.